TopMedTalk.
Well, hello, I'm Desiree Chappell, and this is TopMedTalk. We are live from the European Anesthesiology Congress, Euro Anesthesia 2019 in Vienna, and I am here with the editor-in-chief of TopMedTalk, who's just putting on his headphones. I just caught you very last minute there, didn't I, Monty?
Sorry about that. Someone was trying to grab me, so I'm sorry
shocked.
To be distracted.
I'm shocked, Monty. You know everybody here. But we now have Mariet, Harbishar. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. I know that you were presenting about hypotension and some of the research that you've been doing. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and kind of your background there?
Yeah, so I'm an anesthesiologist. I'm working at the University Hospital in Giessen. Giessen is in the middle of nowhere in Germany. It's about 1 hour north from Frankfurt.
Oh, okay.
And before I started to work there, I was working about 10 years at the Charité in Berlin, at the University Hospital. So there I started also my research, and so my topics are hemodynamic monitoring, go-directed therapy, and now just we have started to use the HPI also. So.
Oh, okay. So how long? So you've been doing that type of research the whole time during your practice. So whenever you were in Berlin and at that university, was that a large institution there?
It's a large. I think it's the largest university hospital in Germany. So because it has different campus, and so.
And you said the place where you are now is kind of small. What does that actually mean?
No, it's not kind of small. It's also a big university, but it's not as big as the University Hospital in Berlin. It's
all perspective.
So Berlin is big, and also the University Hospital is big. And now Giessen is smaller. It's about 300. No, it's about 100 people living there. So 100,000 people living there, and so the University Hospital is big. But not as big as...
Do you know how many beds they have?
I think about 1,500, so it's also a big one.
Yeah, I was going to say,
we have also all kinds of surgeries, cardiac surgery, big abdominal. We have also children heart surgery and transplantation, so it's also a big experience there.
And clinically, what type of cases do you normally do?
What I do, so my clinical work at the moment is a little bit different from the operating room. Just I do the emergency department from the anesthesiology side, but my research I work on the big abdominal surgery and also orthopedic surgery. And I used to work a lot in cardiac intensive care. For the last years, where I did a lot of research, and now I'm just a little bit changing my working place, but the research is the same in the operating room and in the ICU.
So you were kind of getting me up to speed on some of the research that you currently are working on that you've been recently doing.
It's, on the HPI, on the Hypotension Prediction Index. We had the opportunity to test that device 2 years ago, and just thought we want to know if it really works in the clinical practice, if we can really prevent hypertension, not only to show that hypertension will occur. So we wanted to know if a go-directed therapy using an HPI monitor can prevent the hypertension. So we had a really small study, but it was a pilot trial where we had a historical control group, we had a blinded group, so we had 25 patients where we measured the HPI, but the anesthesiologist could not see that. And we had the intervention group where we where we measured the HPI and had a protocol using the HPI to prevent the hypertension. So we had the 3 different points. We had the preload, the contractility, and the afterload. And whenever something is going wrong and the HPI was about 80, then we had to treat that. So we wanted to prevent that the patient really gets into a hypotensive episode. And that was.
Let me ask you. So, just taking it back just a little bit. So, you guys were already utilizing advanced hemodynamic monitoring in practice, right?
Yes.
And what type of patients were you using?
Orthopedic patients. It was hip prothesis patients, primary hip prothesis.
Primaries, okay.
So the most patients were between 60 and 67 years old, and so with the with the medium risk. So
that's what I was going to ask, the risk stratification that you were
medium
using.
risk patients.
Okay. And is that were you using it for? Were you using like GDT or goal-directed therapy for any other patients? Had that kind of spread into any other service lines?
Normally, we use the goal-directed, especially in high-risk patients.
Yes.
So, but we wanted to know if in medium-risk patient it will work either. So we tried to use that in medium risk. And my previous work was also on medium risk orthopedic patients, where we used the goal-directed therapy using another hemodynamic monitoring. And there we could show that we can reduce complications if you use goal-directed therapy. And so we tried to make the new study with the HPI either in the medium risk patients. So
okay, and what did you find? What were
it was interesting how other speakers also said that normally if you are experienced in anesthesia, you think you will see when the patient is getting bad and the hypertension will occur. But it was all in our study either that the historical control group also the blinded group had in medium 10 minutes during the operation with a hypotensive episode, so the total duration. So it was something about 6 to 7% of the operation time. The patient was with a mean arterial pressure lower than 65.
65,
so
okay.
it was the same.
And that's what Thomas actually had found in his research.
It was the same results in our study. And we could reduce the total duration in medium to 0 minutes. So of course, there are some patients who have 2 or 3 minutes, but in the medium duration was 0 minutes with the HPI group. So
really?
Our protocol seems to work. And
So tell me, how many patients was this study? You said it was a small pilot. Which is fine.
Was the HPI group was 25. So the blinded control group was 25, and the historical group were 50.
Gotcha.
So regarding that was a pilot trial, we did not find any other outcome benefits regarding length of stay or complications, but it was not the aim of the study. The aim of the study just was to show if we could reduce the frequency of hypertensive episodes, and if we could reduce the duration of the hypertension. We could. And now just starting a new study, a bigger one in high-risk patients, and we will see if we can also reduce complications or reduce the length of stay.
Yeah, what type of complications are you going to look at? Some specifically, like AKI? AKI mins are the big story right now. Are those things that you're going to take a deeper dive and look at, or?
Just we are looking on all big complications, but of course AKI and myocardial ischemia or infections is also
definitely.
Big theme.
SSI, surgical site infections.
Yes.
That's a huge story as well.
Yes.
That'll be great to hear that. Well, let me ask you. I know that we are. We don't want to go too long. It's been later in the day. I totally get it, but. And this is kind of taking it back just to your experiences doing a pilot study. Some people are like, oh, it's just a pilot study. But one of the things we talk a lot about whenever people are wanting to start new quality improvement programs and bring new ideas to their practice, not just to show research for a certain person, certain group or something like that, but really do it. It's like, let's do some pilot programs and see what outcomes are.
Yes.
And how has that affected your all's practice in what you're doing, and what has your experience been with that, just doing a pilot program in itself?
So it's just to see that something works or really will work. The problem with the pilot trial is you do not know really if it really works in the clinical practice again with all patients. So the pilot trial, you have a special patient group. You really look for the right patient, and if you have the whole patient population, it might be a little bit different. So we should try, and we just wanted to know if it works. I don't like really pilot trial, but we had to do that just to see if it works. And now you have to make really something like a quality improvement project. So you have to implement that in your clinical practice for all patients, or for all high risk or medium risk patients, not only for some special patients including into a study. I think that's the big point. That's not the clinical study. All patients are treated better than, I think, the normal patient without studies. I think we have to see how it works without studies in the clinical practice.
Yeah. I just always say, though, like you said, you got to start somewhere. And some people, if they can get excited about something like a pilot study to do, like, let's do that. And let's take, sometimes people, the buy-in, is a little bit greater. Is that what you kind of found too? That if you start talking about things like that, the buy-in for the whole group, will be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand. Well, I really appreciate you sitting down with us. I know you have had a long day with the presentations earlier and all that good stuff, and this has been a fantastic meeting. Have you been able to spend any time in any of the other lectures or anything like that?
No, I just I came to my lecture, and now I have to go back.
Oh, isn't that sometimes the worst part? It's like you don't actually get to see where you are. First of all, you're in beautiful Vienna, Austria.
Just for a few hours. Now I go back to work tomorrow.
And that's the thing. And I love that. I mean, that I think is really important for our listeners on TopMedTalk to hear people that are actually in practice doing these types of things. So I really appreciate you sitting down with us, Marit. It was really a wonderful conversation. Hope to talk to you soon and hear more about what you're going to be doing next phases.
I'm looking forward.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Cheers.
TopMedTalk.
Just a quick reminder, subscribe to TopMedTalk. We're a daily source of news and conversation focused on perioperative care. We bring you all the latest talk from all the major conferences in the perioperative space. We can also be found on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we now have a free mailing list with special offers and additional goodies for subscribers. Go check us out at topmedtalk.com. That's www.topmedtalk.com.